Welcome to News Now Alberta. This is Special Ed. Today we're looking at a off-duty Toronto police officer unlawfully open carrying his gun while out in the city.
Last week, a chilling incident unfolded that involved an off-duty Toronto Police Service member who was seen brazenly carrying his service handgun at a local gas station. And shockingly, the public has been kept in the dark about all of it. I was tipped off to this absolutely disturbing situation where just weeks after graduating, a Toronto police constable with only 1 month of service was caught with his weapon openly exposed on his hip. Zahaves Simon was dressed in track pants, a hoodie, a backward baseball cap, and sandals, nonchalantly flaunting his service weapon on March 13th for all to see. Just let that sink in for a moment. A police member, an officer fresh out of training, parading around with his firearm fully visible, an act so irresponsible and unprofessional that it defies belief. By the time officers responded to the call, Simon had already left the scene, but they tracked him down at his home, where he reportedly became defiant when questioned, offering no explanation as to why he transported his service weapon home or openly carried it. To add a further layer of unease, the investigation reveals Simon had recent domestic-related calls on his record with the Niagara Police Service.
Now, I know a lot of my American fans are going to wonder what the heck is wrong here. In Canada, you cannot open carry to start with. You cannot have a handgun out in public, even if it's concealed. It has to be locked at home. Uh, right now, with the new law, you can't buy a new handgun. You can't sell your old handgun. Handguns are now prohibited in Canada. And if you're an officer, well, you're supposed to leave your handgun at work. So open carrying a handgun in Canada is so illegal, it's crazy. I'd go to jail for this if I was carrying a handgun, even concealed.
What's even more unsettling in this story is that Simon was part of a publicly celebrated initiative to accelerate police reform and build trust in communities, as touted by Toronto Police Chief Myram Demkew, who heralded a new era of policing just 3 weeks ago. And now, just weeks after that bold statement, we learn that one of these new recruits was not only involved in domestic-related incidents, but was also flaunting his service weapon in public and defying orders from his own colleagues. This raises alarming questions about the integrity of the very reforms that Toronto Police Chief Demkew claims to champion. Where's the accountability? And what does this truly say about the so-called change happening within the force and arguably coming down from the top? Let's take a look at the paragraphs where Simon's photo was once sandwiched between. The following are quotes from Toronto Police Service Board Chair Shelley Carroll, who told the graduates that they earned the moment through hard work, determination, and a deep desire to serve their city. You are an impressive group, and collectively you have remarkable language skills. She's quoted as saying, "This matters because Toronto is one of the most diverse cities in the world, and the strength of our police service comes from reflecting the very communities you will serve. Your backgrounds, your languages, and your perspectives will help build trust, foster relationships, and make sure that every Torontonian sees themselves in the people who serve and protect them," Carroll is further quoted as saying. And then a photo showcasing new Constable Simon putting on his hat after the benediction delivered by a TPS pastor used to live here, but has now been scrubbed from the page.
So at this point, they even took his picture off the website of new officers. So they do know that what he did was totally illegal, even though they're not doing anything about it.
And then the announcement continues. A total of 48% of the graduates speak at least one language other than English, ranging from Hindi, Urdu, and Tamil to Creole, Albanian, and Farsi. So, was Simon hired based on merit or DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives? With such a lapse in judgment, if you can say it so plainly, and professionalism just 1 month into his service, it's hard to ignore the glaring question of whether this was a case of a hiring process that prioritized demographic quotas over actual qualifications. As the Toronto Police Service champions diversity and inclusivity, touting impressive language skills and backgrounds, one has to wonder, does this focus on diversity come at the expense of basic competence and accountability?
Are you guys cops or you just identify as cops?
Simon's behavior, from flaunting his weapon in public to defying his fellow officers, and a history of domestic related calls, not only does all of this raise red flags about readiness for the job, but also questions whether these so-called reforms are truly advancing public safety.
So he has many calls for domestic abuse and he's still allowed to be a cop. Like these calls came in before he was officially an officer. He's not during him being an officer. So they know he was violent at home and he's probably going to be violent on the streets.
Or simply creating an illusion of progress. It's becoming increasingly clear that while diversity may strengthen a police force's connection to the community, it should never come at the cost of undermining the integrity and professionalism that the job demands. I reached out to the Toronto Police Service to inquire about the March 13th incident, and I asked them to clarify the measures taken to ensure public safety, whether Simon's service weapon had been confiscated, and if any official statements or updates had been released regarding the incident. Additionally, I requested information on the status of the investigation and why Simon's photo was removed from that new constable's start career in policing webpage, as well as whether he had been relieved of his duties. Media Relations Officer Victor Sahudi confirmed they had received my request and someone would get back to me, but no one did by the deadline set.
So I have absolutely no problem with diversity as long as the people that you hire is the best people for the job. I have no problem with women having positions of power as long as she was the best candidate for that job. Now, there is such a thing going on that they're putting people there to make them look good. They're putting women there to make their police station look good. They're putting, diverse people in positions to make themselves look good. But if they're not the best person for the job, then it doesn't help the department.
Now, this serious incident brings to light the growing concerns among the public about the qualifications and accountability within the Toronto Police Service and whether the focus on diversity and inclusion is coming at the expense of professionalism and integrity needed to ensure public safety. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini.
I personally love Rebel News. They're the only ones that actually did a piece on this. There's hardly any news articles, like no news articles about it. Rebel's the only one that went ahead and told the story. So basically, the Toronto Police Department is trying to sweep this under the rug. They're not sharing with the media. There's no media release about it. We don't know what happened afterwards because they're not saying anything. They're just trying to make this all disappear. So I'm going to leave a link to the original video. I'm going to leave a link to Rebel News page because they are awesome. Let me know what you think of this. Let me know what you think should have happened to this cop. Should he even be a police officer to start with? Just let me know in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe. Check out my Patreon, where for $1 a month you can get my videos a week in advance with other perks coming. Thank you.